All right, as people are coming in, I'll give us another minute or so to joining from Georgia. Great to have you here. Laura, you're probably a little bit warmer. I'm in Chicago and it's granted all the snow has melted, so it's warming up a little bit, but a little bit warmer probably where you are.
Just a little bit, not by much right now. It's been pretty chilly.
Oh, has it really? Uncharacteristically.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I would love to hear what is, as you think about tuning into, our conversation today is going to be all about gut health and how gut health is so critical to really get a handle. And I want you to walk away with, my intention is always to walk away with at least one new inspiration, aha, new pearl of information that hits you with a desire to make a new change, right? Something that's going to be supportive of your health and your vitality in the long term. And really, sometimes I think there's a ton of information out there, and it's not necessarily about having it all figured out. It's about what's that one thing that's going to help me move the needle to really create a shift in the way that I feel. So, Michelle, glad to have you join us here too. If you can pop in the chat, tell us where you're joining from. For those of you just coming in, you can chime in there. Any questions you have, we'll definitely have time for some Q&A. I intend these sessions, these like little mini master classes, to be interactive and to be really engaging and inspiring. And you know, the impetus here is to have you, like I said, have that one breakaway, that one new idea that you can take with you to implement change so that you can really notice a difference in how you feel. So if you're here, chances are you probably have something with your health that you want to be changed, right? Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have wasted your time to tune in. So I know that in the years, my name is Amanda Hinman. For those of you that I'm just connecting with for the first time, I am the founder and lead practitioner for Hinman Holistic Health. We support women primarily in the arena of optimizing their hormone, their mood, their gut health, and really create a predictable path, so that you can feel confident and safe that your body is going to feel better, right? Our objective is always to improve symptoms. And over the years, we found that we have an average of a 78% symptom improvement in 6 months of time. And I don't take that lightly, right? I mean, that doesn't just happen randomly. It's not a fluke. When it comes to making sustainable changes in our health, it comes to a really proven, predictable process. And a large part of that, we're going to be talking about some of the key steps that we always focus on is our gut health. What's going on from a nutrient perspective, what's going on from a digestive perspective, and how well is our gut microbiome really supporting our body's vitality. So anyone here been, kind of maybe pop into the chat really frustrated or discouraged, maybe because you've tried other things to improve your health, right? Maybe you've tried to have different diet plans, or you've tried exercise routines, or you've tried working with doctors and other specialists and taken supplements, and yet still don't feel that your health is where you want it to be, right? If you don't mind, put in the chat if you're still experiencing some challenges or some frustrations around your health, and put H if everything is absolutely on track, if it's high, if it's healthy, exactly where you want to be. So again, I'm asking us to be a little bit of vulnerable here, right? And just share where are we today. Hello, for those of you just tuning in, great to meet you. We're putting in the chat. I'm encouraging you to just put a C if you're still experiencing some challenges health-wise in the chat. Just kind of let me know where we're at today. Or yeah, thank you, Laura, for sharing where you're at. Because if you're experiencing some challenges, you're in the right place, right? We are here to create a shift. We're here to create some momentum and some clarity, so that, yeah, Maria too, still experiencing some challenges. So like I said, the most common things that we help support women with, that I've found in the years of doing this work, is really around metabolic health, unwanted weight gain. I just feel like I can't figure out what's going to move the needle and what's really going to make that sustainable. Weight optimization. The other area is energy. Is anyone feeling like their energy is lower than they want it to be? Yes, thank you. I can relate to that. What about trouble sleeping? I'm not getting that sound restorative sleep. So I wake up feeling like charged and ready to go in the morning. That's another very common area. Another thing is brain fog. Like I just feel like there's a perpetual state of overwhelm or moodiness or something that I'm just not myself. In fact, yeah, Maria's going, me too. Yeah, I'm definitely not enjoying the way that I kind of my normal status quo and the way that I feel and the way that I'm able to focus and the way that I'm able to really be stable and grounded in my experience. Well, we're going to be talking about today 5 things that are absolutely critical when it comes to supporting our gut health and our overall vitality today. And these things have shifted, even different in 2024 than they were 2 and 3 years ago, right? When we were, even especially during the time of COVID, like things have shifted, and it's important for us to know what's happening now and why these challenges are now. And then I'm going to be sharing you the 5 things that have remained the same. And like I said, I've helped support women in 150 cities across the US and Canada. So we see these patterns. We're always looking for what are the patterns? What are the things that we need to be aware of now in order to really serve our community? So as I mentioned, I'm the founder of Hinman Holistic Health. For those of you tuning in, our natural hormone solution program is a proven process and a roadmap to create improvement in your overall health and vitality. We have a 78% symptom improvement over 6 months, and it's because there are certain steps that are just part of the process. But first, I want to and I invite you to grab a piece of paper and a pen and take some notes here. One of the first things we're going to dive into is the 5 key problems that, especially today, you must solve in order to achieve a healthy gut. And you need a healthy gut in order to optimize hormones, in order to optimize metabolic health, mood, all of those things start in the gut. So the 5 key problems that are most top of mind now in today's society is, first, that women today have less time specifically for food and meal preparation as a whole, right? So 72%, 72.3% of women are now in the workforce. That's an all-time high in our country. And that's a beautiful thing, right? It gives us an earning power, gives us some sense of contribution and empowerment and impact. And it also means that for majority of women today, they have less minutes per day that they can allocate towards meal planning, food prep, cooking, all of that thing. Can you relate to that? Does anyone feel like you have less time? Right. So that is a problem that must be solved. We must make the most effective use of our time when it comes to planning meals, knowing what to include in meals that is going to be supportive, that's going to really help us to reach our goals. So that's problem number 1. You can write that down, that we actually have less time today as a society, especially as women in our society. The next biggest challenge right now is attention span. Short attention span. It's cultural. The latest data shows that the average person's attention span is 2.9 seconds. I mean, really, Instagram and all the things, we see the reels and stuff, they're fun, they're entertaining, but they're training our brain to want that instantaneous response. So we've always, anyone who we would all want the quick fix pill, right? If we could just take a pill and everything would be solved from a health perspective, who wouldn't want that? I would want that, right? I'm just being honest. But in today's society, looking for that instant fix, our bodies are almost conditioned, like dopamine from the brain, the neurotransmitter activity, our bodies and our brains are being more and more dependent on that instantaneous quick fix, that solution. So physiologically, our bodies are being conditioned to train and to want to see evidence, to see the result right away. And when it comes to health, I'm just going to be completely honest here, especially when we're talking about what we're going to get into, when we're talking about health span versus your lifespan. How many years are you going to be healthy? How many years are you going to feel fantastic and have energy and vitality? That's true health span. That is not something that is just a quick solve. It's not a pill, right? It's really adopting the skill set and the value alignment that's going to empower you to make choices day in and day out that are supportive of your overall health and vitality. And we're going to talk about specifically why this is so critical to your gut health and the evolution of how we've understood our microbiome. So challenge number 2 is looking and kind of being trapped in that short attention span, looking for the quick fix in today's society. Challenge number 3 is confusion. We have an oversaturated health and wellness market, which is great in many ways. There's a lot of different viable options. There's a lot of things that we can look into and research and learn about. However, because there's so much information, it's information overload. And a lot of that information is conflicting. So then we don't know, well, like, should I do intermittent fasting or should I go on Atkins diet? Should I do vegan or should I go high protein? Right? We have all of these conflicting messages because there's so much information that it leads to paralyzation. We kind of just stop, or maybe try a little bit. And if we don't see the results right away, we backpedal. And that is something that's very, very common. That's what we see with our clients all the time, is really getting a game plan so that you can feel empowered and you can know what your body needs specifically. You can have a way of discerning, okay, here's where my body's status is and here's where the gaps are. So I can just step by step work on filling in those gaps in a way that's going to fit into my lifestyle, right? Have a meal planning strategy and have time management that's going to fit into my lifestyle so that there's that sustainability there. So that's the other thing, is the confusion, the conflicting messages, and the oversaturated market. Challenge number 4 that we must solve in order to optimize your gut health and your overall hormone, metabolic, mood health is overconsumption of processed foods. In the US, 73% of the US food supply is now considered ultra processed. 73%. So if we're just an average person, all of us consume processed foods, right? And we can do the best that we can to have real whole foods, but it's that balance of how do we find real whole foods in ways that are actually going to be quick enough and efficient and fit into our daily life. So avoiding the trap of, just looking for the convenience package item, even if it's advertised as organic and natural, it likely may still have a high degree of ultra processed chemical foods in it. And then the 5th challenge is skepticism is incredibly high. Rightfully so. I mean, so many women that we work with and support, they have tried everything. They have tried diets. They have tried exercise plans. They have tried supplements and had different doctor's appointments. And they've had all of the stuff, and yet they still haven't created the lasting traction, right? It's because there's something that hasn't been solved. And we're going to talk about that, like kind of going to the deeper level, because there's the physiological component of what's actually happening with our hormones, what's actually happening with our nutrients in our gut. And then there's the deeper layers of the reason behind our decision-making, our thoughts, and our actions. That ultimately is at the core of the life we lead. What are our thoughts? What are our beliefs? And what are our actions? That creates our results. So we're going to be talking about how to really break through that skepticism so that you can create sustainable change and sustainable month. So I want to ask you guys, ladies, to just pop here in the chat, because this really helps me serve you to a greater degree. So when we're talking about those 5 challenges, less time to prepare foods and really be doing your meal planning, short attention span, like wanting something quick that's going to give me the results fast, confusion, don't know what I should be doing or what I should pay attention to and listen to for my body, ultra processed food and just the overabundant supply of ultra processed foods, or skepticism. Put in there one of those that is the top challenge for you, that if we were to solve that challenge, it would really elevate your progress. Okay, so Laura says time for her. What else? Confusion. Okay, Michelle. Yeah, confusion. That's a big one. It's like, well, what do I listen to? I don't even know. Time, confusion. Okay, what else? Anything else coming up for people? I just want to know which, these are the big ones. Okay, so these are ringing true for you ladies. That's what I'm hearing. Okay, confusion as well. Yep. Well, and confusion is, like I said, there's so much information and a lot of it's conflicting. And the truth of the matter is there is no one recipe that works for everyone. That's why we feel it's so important to take a bio-individual approach and really know your body, which means we get to become a detective. We get to not only from a like looking at the nutrient standpoint, looking at your body's indicators, like we use lab work assessment, we look at it for functional levels and what's actually optimal versus what's just not diagnosable yet. We look at a couple of different combinations, looking at symptoms. Symptomology is really important to lead. Okay, what are the dynamics that are at play for your unique body and your life? So here's the 5 things I want you to write down. These are the 5 things that remain the same that we can really lean into when it comes to thinking about how to optimize our gut health. So the first thing that remains the same, which is so empowering, is that focusing on improving the health of your gut is still the single most effective way to radically shift your health. Hands down, by far, every single thing that leads to increased energy, increased metabolism, increased longevity, increased vitality, decreased risk of diagnosis starts in the gut. Everything starts in the gut. And conversely, every single disease dynamic that is chronic in nature, right? If we're not talking about something that is like a genetic inherited condition, but any that is a chronic disease dynamic starts in the gut. So when we solve the gut, when we get that in a better place, we're maximizing our bang for our buck. When we focus on this, we know that we're going to make drastic change. So that's a good thing, right? We know where to focus. We know what to pay attention to. The second thing that has remained the same is that anyone can improve the health of your gut. It's not limited to just people who are living in Florida and, are, I don't know, over age 35. You're not restricted to improve your gut health if you are somebody that has a corporate job versus somebody who works as an independent contractor, right? There's no other area where you have a limiting factor on being able to improve your gut health. So simplicity is what we're all about. Simplicity supports making strides and making progress and movements. Complexity kills. We don't want to make this overly complex. And you'll notice when it comes to gut health, you can get highly complex. There's a ton of different data and different things we can look at. And while some of that can be inspiring, I use that to be inspiring, to be informative, at the end of the day, it's about doing simple things repeatedly and consistently that is going to have the biggest impact. So simplicity supports gut health improvement. Complexity kills. I want you to write that down. Simplicity supports, complexity kills. If we make it too hard, we're not going to be able to sustain it. And sustainability is the name of the game. Okay, third thing that remains the same is this is one of our key core components, is replenishing nutrients is absolutely vital. So when we think about it, every single cell is literally crafted. It's made from the raw materials that are brought into our body through food and through liquids. Your body, every single cell in the body turns over within a 7-year window. I mean, many turn over even much faster. We have a whole new intestinal lining in about 3 weeks. We have new taste buds in about, what do they say? It's like 27 days. So literally our body is constantly replacing itself. So if you think about yourself, who you were just close your eyes for a minute and think of where were you in your life 10 years ago? So 2014, January. Where were you? What was going on in your life? If you think about that, just flash back to that version of you. Now, recognize that person 10 years ago there's no trace of that individual showing up on this Zoom training today. Literally every single atom in your body is different. Every single atom is different. So what does that mean? That gives us great opportunity, because what is building the new body that you'll have 10 years in the future from now is starting with what you put in your mouth, right? It's what you eat and what you drink. That's the raw material that's building your cells for tomorrow. So replenishing, what are we building it with? Think about like those little Legos, right? I have 4 daughters, and when they were little, they used to like to play Legos. So if you think about little Lego blocks, what type of blocks are they grabbing and making to build their little Lego castles or their towers, right? Do we want to have Lego blocks that are all scuffed and scratched and they can't fit together properly and they don't really work? Or do we want to have really good, effective nutrients, right? Building blocks that are going to work well together, and they're going to be in tandem, and they're going to allow us to make really cool designs. So thinking about replenishing nutrients. And when we think of nutrients, proteins, this means proteins, it means complex carbohydrates, things from whole grains. And we're going to dive in more about specifics around different food groups. Minerals, vitamins, essential fatty acids. All of these things are really important. So replenishing nutrients. And the number one thing I find in the women that we support, almost universally across the board, which is interesting, it's counterintuitive. Most women, especially if one of their top desires is to release weight, they are not consuming enough nutrients. So one of the fastest ways to slow down our metabolism is to constantly give the signal day in and day out, hey, we don't have much supply of what you need to work well. So then our body, in its innate wisdom, says, whoa, 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 we're going to slow down our metabolism and hold on to these stores of fat as long as we can, because fat is an energy supply and there's not much coming in. So we don't know when we're going to have more energy, right? So that's one of the most common things, is people actually don't consume enough of the key nutrients in order to fuel their metabolism and really get it kicked up and kick-started. Okay, step number or option number 4, what remains the same about optimizing your gut health is it's really critical to restore digestive fire. And what I mean by that is when we're eating food, like let's say I have a really healthy salad in front of me, it's some kale and some spinach, and it's got some, chopped up veggies on top, maybe even a little bit of shrimp or something like that. Really healthy food. However, if either I'm eating in a distracted state, I'm running around or barely chewing and swallowing, or I'm doing a decent job of being present while consuming, but my body's physiology does not have adequate digestive secretions, I'm not able to break those down. So I'm not able to extract those nutrients from the food and get it into my cells. They just get kind of moved through and eventually excreted. Sometimes they can cause, we can have undigested or partially digested food kind of stuck in our microbiome in the colon, and that can cause a lot of bloating and gas, and that can cause other unwanted symptoms. And it's not helping our cells get what they need to work well. So restoring that fire and that digestive capability in our gut is really important as well. And then finally, that 5th thing that remains the same about gut health and focusing on resetting our gut is this whole conversation. 2024, it started in 2023 specifically, but even more leading into 2024 is this conversation about emphasis on health span versus lifespan. Right? Lifespan is the average lifespan, I think for women is in the US is around 92 now. So 92 years of age. But if those last 15 years are really poor quality years, that's not as inspiring. That's actually a really heavy financial burden for a lot of families and for our society or for our government as a whole. But we want to talk about extending your health span, the number of years where you have free range of motion, where you have vitality, where you have energy, where you have mental capacity, right? Where you can actually be present and enjoying and a contributing member in your life. So we get to learn from what's working well in the blue zones, and the focus and the emphasis on the blue zone communities has really skyrocketed throughout the last several years because of how effective the focus is on plant-based eating. Right now, this is not necessarily vegetarian. I'm not saying exclusion of protein, but high volume of plant-based eating. It's also really intentional mindfulness and community. So those three pillars all tie into our gut health and our well-being and our health span for the long term. So that's a lot of information I kind of just shared here, but let's dive in. I'm going to take a quick pulse check. What's coming up? If anyone wants to unmute, or you can type into the chat, what's something that's just maybe an aha, or maybe it's integrated, it's hitting you in a new way as you think about this conversation of what's possible for me if I really focus on what remains the same in improving my gut health. What's a new inspiration? Who wants to share? Laura, you want to share what's coming up for you?
So I think what I'm focusing on, and I guess I want a little more information on because I'm not quite grasping it, is the restoring your digestive fire. As far as I know, some of that has to do with the appropriate enzymes for digestion and that sort of thing.
Yes.
But I own my own business, and I'm very, very busy. So I am totally distracted 90% of the time that I'm grabbing a meal. And I'm very good about what I eat. I don't eat ultra processed foods. I eat really, I've learned how to read labels, and I don't eat even, I mean, I eat organic, but I eat the organic that doesn't have the ultra processed oils and things like that. So, but I'm trying to hone in now on the areas where I'm lacking. And obviously that is one, but I need to learn more about it. So that's what's jumping out at me right now.
I love that you pointed out. Okay, we will definitely make sure we dive into that in detail, because you just described a scenario that is true for so many women. And there's frustration. I don't know if you can relate to feeling really frustrated, because it's like, what the heck? I'm eating very thoughtfully. This is not just like grabbing a McDonald's burger, and I'm still not seeing change. I'm not seeing movement here with regards to my health. And a lot of it's because of, is it actually being available for your cells to maximize that nutrient level? Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Laura.
Sure.
Let's see. What about Lori? Are you able to share what's coming up for you?
Yeah, I guess I'm still back to the confusion of doing all the things like eating the probiotic yogurts and taking probiotics and eating all the healthy leafy greens. I do all the things, yet still feel bloated. I go to gastroenterologist, just had colonoscopy. All the things are fine, but I'm still like generally uncomfortable most of the days.
Yeah. Okay. So confusion. So, because again, it's like I haven't figured out what puzzle piece is missing.
Jive in what I eat and what I do, and again, I feel like I'm doing all the things people tell me to do. Yet still feel the daily blah.
Yes. Okay. And I just want to hear you, because I recognize, Lori, that is incredibly frustrating. And you're definitely not alone. So it's like, let's break this down, and let's kind of continue to look through one step at a time of what is coming up. What is the opportunity for you next? Good. Okay. And I'm seeing Michelle says, realizing how the gut can influence the body, non-genetic diseases, illnesses. Oh, it's huge. Yeah, absolutely. Gut is the single most influential area to focus on. So I'm going to dive into a little bit. Let me share my screen here. We're going to go to a couple of slides. I don't like to do let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see. I don't like to do too much overwhelming content here, but can you see where it says our microbial friends? Yes. Okay. Thank you for that affirmation. So when we think about the gut, first and foremost, the gut is this huge, I think of it as like a huge tunnel that actually starts in your mouth, travels down through your esophagus, goes all the way through the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, the colon, and then out the anus, right? As we remove things through a bowel movement. Many people think of when we say our gut, or if you hear the word microbiome, people automatically think stomach. And it's actually that whole entire channel is considered the gut. And there's different microbial species that are present in different quantities in each section that I just described. Each kind of little cavity has its own species, if you will, of and volume of where they are. But when we think about our microbial friends, our microbiome is such a critical aspect. In fact, it houses over 300 times the amount of volume and information than our own cells' DNA. So it influences us. It's funny. It's kind of funny. Some people, I had one of my lead teachers at the School of Applied Functional Medicine used to always say, like, who's the host? Are we the host, or is our microbiome actually the host? Like, who's really the one in charge? But the microbiome is essentially the description for this collection of over 1,000 different species of different bacteria, yeast, fungi, parasites, archaea, that all live inside of our body. And they're all competing for space and food and nutrients. So these microbes must be fed. And they survive from the residues of our diets. For example, they eat the fibers, the starches, the sugars, the amino acids, the bile, all the things that are going through that channel, that system that I described, is what those different species live on. That's their food supply. So depending on what we have coming through that channel is going to dictate which types and which volume of those species can stay alive and proliferate and which ones die off. These different microbial friends, they secrete vitamins. Like, they're responsible for secreting K1 and K2, which is important for vitamin D absorption. We have to have adequate levels of K1 and K2. They secrete enzymes. They make neurotransmitters. Over 90% of our serotonin, which is often referred to as the happy hormone, that helps keep our brain centered, our pain regulation managed, our feeling of contentment. That's a neurotransmitter. 90% of it is synthesized in the gut. They also help to create beneficial fats, which are called short chain fatty acids, and they help to retain intestinal permeability. So keeping that one cell thick membrane between what's going through the gut and the digestive tract and what's crossing over into the blood barrier. So our microbiome is really important. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna mute. I'm not sure who just popped in, but I'm gonna see if I can.
Let me just start on this. They're trying to get a new trial.
How do I mute this person?
Motion from the trial, even in the letter when they can see.
There we go. Okay, so when we have dysbiosis, that is another way of describing that there's an imbalance of the species of microbes. In other words, we have an overgrowth of the ones that are problematic, that are going to create unwanted symptoms and infection, and we have a loss of the diversity of microbes, the ones that are helping to synthesize those vitamins and those enzymes and those hormones and things like that. So there's been a shift in that balance. That's what essentially dysbiosis means. So when we think about our microbial friends, our immune system learns to tolerate the bacteria and respond to different pathogens. Now, again, these are just some little examples, but the microbiota instructs our immune system to work appropriately. So for example, sometimes you've heard the term of like H. pylori overgrowth. H. pylori is a type of bacteria that's predominantly found in the small intestine. It's implicated in ulcers, so people who have gastric ulcers, but it's the induction of the Treg immune cells that is prevents and it leads a tendency to Crohn's disease or to asthma. So you can see, again, it's actually the bacteria that is informing the immune system that's leaded to these other diagnosable diseases that people struggle with. The microbes themselves and our immune system can cause damage to the protective intestinal mucosal lining called the epithelial lining, and that causes cell damage on that lining. these lining that we're going to talk about, the villi, when the villi are damaged because that mucosal lining has been broken down, this is when we can have systematic inflammation. And this is when things become problematic. So the evolution of our approach in health and as practitioners, and really our respect for gut intelligence, is early on, decades ago, we used to always think microbes are bad. Any microbes we have, give an antibiotic, right? Anytime we're sick or there's a problem, treat it with an antibiotic because we want to kill off the microbes. Then it was a realization of like, whoa, wait, actually, some of these microbes are good. They're actually helping us. They have some use. They create some, like I said, some vitamins, some enzymes. They have some other components. So we want to have probiotics and we want to make sure we support with probiotics. Then it was like, well, actually, you don't want to just keep taking probiotics over and over. You want to have prebiotics because prebiotics is what the probiotics need to eat and to live on. So you have to take prebiotic supplements to make sure you have the right type of good bacteria that stays alive. Then there was a conversation about, oh, you really need to have this whole systematic approach. Symbiotics is kind of newer in the health conversation, but really at the end of the day, and that's why I go back to those 5 factors in the very beginning, in order for the microbiome to thrive and to have this beneficial diversity, it's your lifestyle. It's the day in, day out decisions that have the strongest and most meaningful impact in affecting your microbiome. So what are the things that we're doing when it comes to how we're prioritizing stress, how we're nourishing and slowing down to eat? If we think about your body as a plant, many women fail to consider that it's not just the salads, the smoothies, the supplements that I need to have to nourish my plant. I need to think about how well is it being absorbed? And this is where the gut comes in. Our gut is like the soil. If we don't have good soil, a plant is not going to thrive. It's not going to grow. Well, our roots in the gut, the lining of the gut is lined with these villi. Think of them like little finger things. That's what helps to absorb nutrients. If those villi are damaged, then we're not able to effectively absorb. And those villi are so important in the overall impact of our health that we have a tremendous amount of them. Their job is huge. Like if you were to take all of the lining of your gut and spread it out, it would take the whole length of a football field. There's that much inside of your stomach, inside of your, and not in your stomach, inside of your microbiome, inside of your whole gut lining. So that's how critical this digestive component piece is. And I want to kind of refer back to your question about absorption. It really comes down to 2 things: digestive fire. So your digestive capability with regards to stomach acid and digestive enzymes, and the health of your villi, which is how protected is your mucosal lining in the gut. If those 2 things are disrupted, even eating all the salads, the smoothies, the healthiest food in the world is not going to have the same impact. So that's really what we're talking about, is if we have poor gut health, it's like having imbalance in the body. Our body, it's bad for health. We can't absorb. Another thing to keep in mind, like I talked about, is the importance of your stomach acid, your hydrochloric acid. This is really thinking about, like, are those nutrients even getting to your soil, right? So if we have really low stomach acid levels, and I'm going to share with you how to test your stomach acid levels, then chances are it's not even being broken down properly to get to that villi, to get inside that microbiome and be absorbed by those finger villi in the mucosal lining. So things like proton pump inhibitor medication, PPIs, are very common. In fact, many women think that they have experience of too much stomach acid. If they have acid indigestion or a little bit of, they get full fast after eating meals and feel very uncomfortable. Many times people think, oh, I need to take Tums over the counter or some type of proton pump inhibitor, when in fact we find that usually it's too low stomach acid that doesn't appropriately close the kind of the pyloric sphincter at the top and seal off the esophagus from the stomach, and then it bubbles up and it gives that uncomfortable sensation. So it's actually not from too much. More often it's from too little stomach acid. So these are just some of the considerations to think about. Is your stomach acid levels adequate? The other question is, do you have the right balance of microbes in your soil, right? Do you have the proper bug balance, or is it skewed because of some other factors? And are your villi, your roots, those little finger things, are they working properly, or have they been destroyed and broken down because of stress? That mucosal lining has worn away and they're not effectively able to absorb nutrients. So I'm going to kind of pause here and jump in because I kind of shared a bunch of different things. What is, I believe was it Lori? Lori, you were the one that was sharing that about the digestion, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what's coming up as you're thinking about stomach acid levels, and it could be a combination, stomach acid levels, the right type of balance of microbiome species and bacteria, and or mucosal damage to those villi that absorb. Does any of this like inspire you to think like, I don't
It
know?
brings a lot of questions to my mind. And as far as what, because you mentioned stress and I'm sure there's tons of factors,
Yeah.
but I do have a autoimmune disease
Okay.
that is genetic. It runs in my family, and I'm on medication for it.
Okay.
And I know that medication is very damaging to my gut health. And so I'm constantly trying to do all these things to repair and keep my gut health. But so I think one of the things that I'm as we're diving in that I'm now thinking is, okay, so to what degree is that medication impacting my mucosal lining, and is that where some of this is happening? So I'm taking all this in and still ready, like I'm taking it. I'm ready for more.
Well, no, and I appreciate that. So, and I love that you're looking at it from like, kind of looking at these different layers, because oftentimes there are, and let's be honest, and I am not a practitioner that is someone who says all medications are bad or all medications are the answer. And the reality is we get to inform ourselves of like, what are all of the effects, good or wanted or unwanted, and then really make empowered decisions on how best to support our health, right? I've had many clients who have had different medications or different situations where it really made sense to remain on them and use them for the tool that they provided for a period of time, while creating some other support and some other mechanisms in place to perhaps build up their mucosal lining or to really reduce stress, for example, in certain areas, so that then things could be shifted and adapted for the longer term, kind of like putting on a cast when you have a broken leg and then kind of getting the body in a different state. Or other people that say, hey, listen, for example, another thing that many women don't realize is oral birth control overtly damages our gut lining. So it's going to deplete some of that mucosal layer and things like that. So, but some women are like, I just don't want to have more children. So I'm not willing to, take the chance on getting pregnant. So we have to look at ways to get creative, say, okay, well, what does your body need specifically? And this is why it's not a one answer for everyone. What does your body need specifically in terms of different foods, okra and artichoke and different things that can help support your unique situation versus somebody who is in a different situation, right? But I love that you're starting to take this all in and really look at, hey, there are ways that I can understand what my body needs and work proactively.
Yeah.
What else? Maria, what's coming up for you?
Right now, everything you've said applies to me.
Okay. Okay. Well, you're in the right place. That's good.
From the beginning. Yes, I've got the fog. No time. My attention has gone down. I'm confused all the time. And mind you, I'm a teacher. I'm 57 years old. I've tried several things and I'm gaining weight, not losing it.
Mhm.
So now when you got to this section, that lifestyle has the most impact on my gut health, and I have to change all of that. I mean,
It's overwhelming.
yes.
Yeah, well, thank you. Here, I'm gonna grab a pen right now. Thank you for saying that, Maria, because this is what, can I just go there, ladies, and do a little bit of truth telling?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest, because I mean, we've done this for so long and it's not, I wish things could be just like a super fast, a quick fix. And the reality is nothing that's really truly worth it is a quick fix. This is about becoming newly skilled and value alignment. And I feel like for many of us women, when we enter a season in life, I'm throwing myself into this category as well. So if you can relate to it, hopefully, there's different seasons in our life. Sometimes it's a season where we're really focused on our family and our kids, and they take majority of our attention, and that's where everything goes, or a lot of things go. And then maybe it's a season where we're focused on our career and advancement and growth and impact and different things like that. And I always feel like when we get to a place of where we're struggling with our health, and that was me and my family situation too, it's like that is a call out that's happening for you, not to you. And it's really an invitation to say, hey, listen, we get to align your values. And perhaps we get to approach and look at your life in a new way, because I'm going to share with you. And again, feel free to jot this down, because I think this is really powerful. The difference between healthy people, what I call vibrant mindset, and depleted mindset. All right. So this is just the way that women tend to think about things and the beliefs or the perspectives. So just, jot down which one is where you are today and which one is where you want to be. When we think of vibrant mindset, healthy people, they know that their own well-being and safety and security is really based on their own commitment. It's not based on any external factor, any external circumstance. It's based on themselves and their own commitment to themselves and their decisions. Now, a depleted person is seeking certainty from something outside of themselves. I want this medication. I want this procedure. I want this diet. I want this doctor to tell me what's going to make me feel better, right? So that vibrant, healthy mindset is, I've got certainty and I can be confident in my future because of my own commitment versus someone else. The healthy mindset, the healthy way of thinking about it is, I'm building for a better tomorrow. I know that this is going to take a process. It's an unfolding, it's a journey. And I'm willing to do it because it means tomorrow is going to be better than where I'm at right now. The depleted thought process, the depleted perspective is, this better pay off. Otherwise, why the heck even bother? If this doesn't work, forget it. I'm miserable, I'm out, right? The vibrant, healthy way of thinking is, I'm a sponge. I want to learn, and I can always learn something new. Even if I think I've heard it before, there's going to be a new distinction for me. There's going to be something that will land for me in a new way. So I want to learn. The depleted mindset is, I already know this. I've already heard this. It doesn't work. I already know it. Well, there's a difference between knowing it intellectually and knowing it because that's your reality. You're living it, right? The healthy, vibrant mindset is, you know what? I gain wisdom as I go, as I learn. No one can take that from me. No one can, if I learn what my body needs and I learn how it runs, how I feel grounded, how I feel peaceful, how I feel energized. If I learn how my body feels fueled, how I feel restored and refreshed, no one can take that away from me. It can't be taken away. Like, I have understood it. I appreciate, I know my body, right? The depleted mindset is, I'm going to keep trying all the things. I'm going to keep trying more diets and more tests and more things and keep coming up with this belief or this story that nothing will work. My body is broken. My body is not like everyone else's. My body is, defunct in some way, right? The other thing that's so true for vibrantly healthy people, the way they think is, my reason why I'm doing this is bigger than my fear of change. My reason why is because I want to be here for my loved ones. I want to have that I want to be able to get on the floor with my grandkids or go for a hike and be there years down the road for adventure, for experience, for new connections. The reason why is so strong that I'm not going to stay stuck in, oh, it's going to be too hard. I don't have time. The fear of change, right? And the depleted mindset, the depleted belief is, why bother? You know what? I feel like I'm going to fail again. I'm going to try again, and it probably won't work again. So I'm just going to stay where I'm at. I'm still alive. I'm still here. So I just want to kind of share that because I think that is so key when we think about this. And it really comes down to knowing that you don't have to be alone in this journey. It really comes down to having support, having clarity, having a game plan that helps you to hold to that journey and that pathway forward. So I do want to offer, if anyone here is feeling like, hey, I want to have a conversation and dive a little bit deeper into your specific situation, I do want to offer a chance that we can connect for, actually, give me a moment here. And I apologize, I didn't have this up, but we can connect for, a conversation to see what's going on in your unique body, what is at play, and what do you think is really the stumbling block getting in the way? Sometimes it is, hey, we get to look at some more physiology and we get to understand where things are for you right now. Okay, this is going to give me, here we go. Here is my calendar link. I'm going to just pop this in here. If you want to have a conversation and explore further, sometimes it is like, hey, I really want somebody to kind of take a look at my labs, take a look at information and see what pieces are missing. A lot of times it's, let's look at some of these key factors and recognize, where do I get to make up levels? Where do I get to have a game plan and really start to see the traction? Like I said, we go through looking at the root cause, looking at your symptoms, looking at your labs, understanding where you're starting from, replenishing those key nutrients for your specific body in a way that's going to be sustainable. Then helping to restore digestive fire, because that is absolutely critical to have that healthy microbiome balance. The fourth step is resetting your thinking. As I was talking about, a lot of these things is like, really, what's that new vibrant mindset? What is the way that I get to approach things for the long term? And so that I'm adding to my health span versus staying stuck in overwhelm or stuck in defeat and stuck in shame and blame. That's another one that comes up a lot for us women, is we guilt and shame ourselves. And that is one of the fastest ways to deplete your mucosal lining, is to have those negative emotions on overdrive and on a repeating loop. So we have a lot of like really powerful behavior change, neuroscience tools and technologies to help you reset the way you think about things, give you a new perspective. And then that fourth piece is, or that last piece, is removing toxins, because toxicity, whether it be physiological toxicity or the mental emotional toxicity, it impacts our health. So really having a handhold to step through that. If that's something that you're interested in learning more about, feel free to find a time and we can connect. I want to make sure I answer any questions here before we wrap up. I know we're coming to the top of our hour. Anyone have any questions for me? Anything that's standing out? No? Do you feel, okay, if you mind putting in the chat, what's one action step that you are going to take with you as a result of this conversation? I mean, you just carved out an hour of your time. I love it. I'm so inspired. The fact that you're here, you're looking for that inspiration. You're looking for that new focus. What is something that you're going to take away and look at or take action on in a new way? What's your action as a result of this discussion today? And maybe like, hey, you know what? I'm going to sit down and really get clear of how I can effectively plan my time and really think about what foods my body needs. It may be, hey, you know what? I need to have a conversation. I want to have a conversation and see what's possible to have that support, to have that guidance, and to really see what change could look like.
It took me a minute to unmute myself.
Oh,
Where,
okay.
kind of two things. Where would someone like me start?
Mhm.
You have mentioned labs. What kind of labs, blood tests, where, like when I would go to the doctor, what would I ask for?
Yes, great question. Well, Maria, I would say the first place to start is to probably book a conversation and you and I can have a longer discussion.
Okay.
But definitely do that because you're going to get more
Okay.
clarity.
Yeah, I plan on it. Yes.
Good. And in terms of labs, so there are, when we go to a regular annual physical, there are most common everyday labs, and these are things called
Okay.
a complete blood panel,
Okay.
a comprehensive metabolic panel. Usually they'll check vitamin D levels. Oftentimes a hemoglobin A1C is common as well. So there are certain labs that are very typical, and I would say always start with that. But what we often do with our clients is we have them come in, we'll look at even your last year labs that you've had in the last 12 months. And even if something was not diagnosable, so you went to the doctor, they drew your labs and said, oh yeah, everything's okay, come back again next year. And they didn't really tell you much of anything, which is common for a lot of women. We're going to look at it through a different lens. We're going to look at it. So the reference range, unfortunately, in the US, fortunately or unfortunately, is based on 2 standard deviations of the population tested. That means what do 95% of the people in America fall between? Now, unfortunately, in America, if you're 95%, does not mean you're even remotely within the optimal health range. You may just be in a very common range. So we look at it through a narrower scope and say, okay, even though something has not been diagnosable yet, is it starting to trend in a direction that is unfavorable? And how can we start to get ahead of it? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And we also, for some of our women who want to dive deeper, we also do some hormonal testing that we can send to your house. We send a urine collection kit and some nutrient testing. So we send it to your house, you collect some urine samples, ship it out, and then we can see what's actually getting to your cells, what's actually happening physiologically. So there, depending on what type of support you're looking for, we can talk about that as well.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? Laura, you're thinking about something or no? You're good? Okay. All right. Well, ladies, I love that you said slowing down at meals. This is really key when it comes to supporting digestion, for sure. Oh, one other thing I want to jump in here quickly. I did mention this, and I know we're kind of running a little bit over, but a simple way to check your stomach acid strength. So the amount of hydrochloric acid is that first step in breaking down nutrients we talked about, is first thing in the morning. So before you eat or drink anything, when you wake up, take about a half a teaspoon of baking soda and mix it with like 4 to 6 ounces of water, just cold water. Stir together, drink that solution before you eat or drink anything. And then time how long it takes you to burp. Because the ions with the baking soda should mix with the acidity in your stomach acid if you have adequate amounts of hydrochloric acid, and cause a gas burp to be created. If you time yourself after drinking that combination and you go, I'd say after 2 minutes and 15 seconds, 2:30 to even 3 minutes, and you don't burp, that is a red flag that likely your stomach acid levels are low. So it's a very simple way to kind of just get a checkpoint, a gauge to see, is my digestion where I want it to be right now? So, all right, ladies. Well, I hope you have a fabulous evening. Again, feel free to book a call if you have not had a chance, if you want to continue this conversation and learn how else you can be supported, then I'd be happy to connect with you further. All right, have a great night.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Oh, how much water with the baking soda? Yeah, Michelle, usually about, I usually say 4 to 6 ounces. So a good, a good, almost not a full cup, but a good amount. Yes. All right. Have a great night.